I broke up with my girlfriend of 7 years and was at my lowest, so to clear my mind I thought of going on a solo hike. The plan was simple: a one-day hike, camp by the famous Blackstone Lake, and return the next day. The trail wound through the dense forest, sunlight filtering through the leaves. I felt at peace for the first time in weeks, but as I approached the lake I came across a man. His clothes were tattered, his hair wild, and he had a nervous tic, constant twitch in his left eye, and an unsettling habit of scratching his neck until it bled. His eyes locked onto mine as he crossed me. "You're here to enjoy nature or ruin it." I assured him I was there to hike and camp. He stepped closer, his breath hot and sour. "You respect nature and it rewards you. You harm this place and I kill you." I laughed, only to realize that he looked dead serious. He stared at me a moment longer before turning and disappearing into the woods. I stood there, heart pounding, until I was sure he was gone. The lake was beautiful. I set up my tent and built a small fire. As the sun dipped below the horizon, another group arrived, setting up their camp a bit far from mine. 4 of them, 2 guys and 2 girls, laughing and chatting rather loudly. I crawled into my sleeping bag soon, read a book, and tried to sleep over their loud talking which echoed in the nature. But then, everything changed. I woke to screams, piercing the night like a knife. Scrambled out of my tent, heart racing, unable to understand what had happened. There was chaos in the other camp, and for a moment I thought that they might have been attacked by a bear. But in the moonlight, I saw him, the crazy man, attacking the other campers. He moved with a terrifying precision. The first camper, a guy, tried to fend him off, but was overpowered. The man drove a knife into his chest. The guy's screams turned to gurgles as blood poured from his mouth. The second camper, one of the girls, ran for the trees. He caught her easily, dragging her back by her hair. Her shrieks echoed in the night as he bashed her head against a rock until she fell silent. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" I clamped my hand over my mouth, shocked. The other 2 campers tried to flee, but the man was relentless. He threw a knife, hitting the second guy in the back. He collapsed, writhing in pain as the man approached and finished him off with a brutal stomp to the skull. The last girl ran in my direction while screaming for help, but she tripped, hurting her ankle. She crawled, but he was on her in seconds. He lifted her by the throat and slashed at her neck with his sharp knife. Her body convulsed before going limp. I crouched behind a tree, watching him quietly. The crazy man stood amidst the carnage, chest heaving, eyes scanning the area. Then, as if sensing my presence, he turned and looked directly at me. "No, please no." I took off, running blindly through the forest. Branches clawed at my face, roots tripped me, but adrenaline kept me moving. Behind me, I heard him crashing through the underbrush, his ragged breath getting closer. I stumbled and fell, pain exploding in my ankle. I crawled into a thicket, pulling leaves and branches over myself, trying to disappear, but footsteps grew louder, stomping just feet from my hiding spot. I could hear him muttering, scratching his neck. "I know you're here. Come out, come out." I held my breath, biting down on my lip to keep from making a sound. "Do not worry. I won't hurt you. They littered the nature and suffered. You have nothing to fear." After what felt like an eternity, he moved on, his footsteps slowly fading into the distance. Stayed hidden for some hours until the sky began to lighten. I limped back to the lake where the campsite was now a gruesome scene. The bodies of the campers lay ahead where they had fallen, blood soaking into the earth while 2 bear cubs devoured over them. I did not wait. I stumbled upon a small ranger station along the way and collapsed, babbling about the attack. They called the authorities, who swarmed the area, searching for the man. It was all over the news, but surprisingly, they never found him. They said that he was a deranged man who attacked the travelers who harmed nature, but he had never killed before. A manhunt began, but he was never found. Booking the secluded mountain cabin seemed like the perfect escape from the bustle of city life. As a nature enthusiast, I craved the serenity of the forest and the crisp mountain air. The cabin was everything I had hoped for. Rustic, remote, and surrounded by nothing but nature. It was there that I met Alex. He was ruggedly handsome, with a charm that made me feel at ease. We met on one of the hiking trails near the cabin. Alex was a hiker, a nature lover just like me who stayed at a nearby cabin. Our encounters were friendly at first. We talked about our favorite trails, the best spots to watch the sunrise, and our shared love for the wilderness. I had no reason to suspect anything was amiss. It was on the third day that things began to change. Alex showed up at my cabin, uninvited but friendly. He brought a bottle of wine, and we spent the evening talking. I'll admit that there were some sparks in the air. As the night wore on, his demeanor shifted. His friendly banter turned into probing questions about my life, my family, and my fears. I felt a growing unease but tried to brush it off. "It's getting late, Alex. I think it's time to call it a night." Alex's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, Emma. Sweet dreams." I bolted the door after he left, but sleep didn't come easily. But then I woke in the dead of night to find Alex standing at the foot of my bed. Before I could react, he lunged, pinning me down, his hand clamping over my mouth. "Shh. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." He dragged me to the cabin's cellar, locking me inside. The space was dark, with only a sliver of light coming from a small window near the ceiling. It looked like someone had been staying there, as there were mattresses near me. My heart pounded as it dawned on me. I wasn't the first one. I don't really know how many days passed after that. Alex controlled my food, giving me just enough to keep me alive, but never enough. At night, he played loud, disturbing noises through speakers he had installed in the cellar. As soon as I was about to faint into a sleep, the cacophony of screams, clanging metal, and static woke me up with a jolt. I would cover my ears and rock back and forth, tears streaming down my face as exhaustion set in. It would also leave me in complete darkness for hours on end. The absence of light played tricks on my mind, and soon I was seeing shadows that weren't there. My imagination ran wild with horrors, each one more terrifying than the last. Then, one day, he brought a knife and began carving symbols into the wooden beams of the cellar. The symbols made no sense to me, but the act worked. I got increasingly terrified. "Why are you doing this?" Alex smiled. "Because I can. I love breaking people. You've done this before." He didn't respond. "What happened to them?" He kept carving. "Please don't kill me." I knew I had to escape, but the cellar was secured with a heavy lock. I spent hours studying it, trying to find a weakness. My opportunity finally came when Alex, in a rare moment of complacency, left a carving tool within my reach. It took every ounce of strength and concentration I had left to fashion it into a makeshift lockpick. One night, while the disturbing noises blared, I worked on the lock. It must have been a week since I had slept properly. My hands trembled violently, but I refused to give up. Finally, the lock clicked open, and I felt a surge of hope. I slipped out of the cellar and crept through the cabin. The floorboards creaked, and I held my breath, praying Alex wouldn't hear. He was in the living room, absorbed in some twisted ritual with the symbols he had carved, meditating under candlelight. I slipped out the back door, the cold night air hitting me like a slap to the face, and then I ran through the treacherous forest as branches whipping against my skin. The lack of sleep had made me paranoid. Every sound made me jump, fearing Alex was behind me. My lungs burned and my legs ached, but I pushed on, driven by sheer will to survive. Reached the ranger station just as dawn was breaking. Pounded on the door, screaming for help. The rangers found me half crazed with fear, covered in cuts and bruises, but I was alive. Alex was never found. The cabin was empty by the time the rangers arrived. I gave his sketch as well, but it's been 3 years now, and I still carry the scars of that time. I took a solo trip to a quiet island close to Hawaii, craving some peace and solitude. The island was a paradise, untouched by the usual tourist rush. I rented a small bungalow near the beach, its white walls gleaming under the tropical sun. After spending the day exploring the lush greenery and pristine waters, I decided to venture out alone at night and sit on the beach. It was warm and soothing. I settled on the sand, listening to the rhythmic sound of the ocean, and then I heard it. A strange whistling call. A woman's voice carried by the wind. It was hauntingly beautiful, yet it sent a shiver down my spine. The whistling stopped suddenly. I shook off the uneasy feeling and told myself it was just the wind, but then it started again, closer this time. I stood up, scanning the dark beach, but saw no one. My voice wavered. The whistling stopped abruptly, and I felt a chill despite the warm night. I decided to head back to my bungalow, but as I turned, I saw footsteps in the sand, leading away from where I had been sitting. They were small, like a woman's, and fresh. My heart pounded, but I decided to follow them. They led to the water's edge and then vanished. Cold sweat broke out of my skin. Turned and started walking quickly back to my bungalow. Halfway there, I heard the whistling again, this time directly behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The footsteps reappeared, leading towards me, stopping just a few feet away. I could feel eyes on me, watching, waiting. Panic surged through me, and I broke out into a run. The sand slowed me down, my feet sinking with each step. I glanced back and saw a shadowy figure standing at the water's edge, barely visible in the moonlight. It was a woman, her long dark hair flowing in the breeze. She raised a hand, and the whistling grew louder, more insistent. Tripped and fell, scraping my knees and hands on the rough sand. Pain shot through me, but I scrambled to my feet and kept running. Reached the bungalow, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My breathing was heavy, and my heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. I backed away from the door, clutching my bleeding hands. I stumbled into the bathroom to wash my wounds. The tap water was icy cold, and the shock of it calmed me slightly. As I cleaned the scrapes, I heard the whistling again, muffled but clear. I froze, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Behind me, the shower curtain moved slightly, as if someone had brushed against it. Slowly, I turned, holding my breath. The curtain stopped moving. I reached out with a trembling hand and yanked it aside. Nothing. The whistling stopped. I backed out, but this time as soon as I looked into the mirror instead of my reflection, I saw a woman, skin parched like charcoal, eyes bloodshot red, dark long hair floating in the air, and teeth like scissors. I froze, unable to believe my eyes. The woman opened her mouth to say something, and that is when I started hearing the whistling again. Yelled at the top of my voice and ran from the bathroom. The room suddenly felt suffocatingly small. I made my way to the living room and turned on all the lights. The brightness was a relief. Sat on the couch, knees drawn to my chest, and tried to think. My mind raced, searching for a rational explanation, but came up empty, and then I fainted. I was woken up by an elderly staff lady who found me shivering. She offered me a blanket and comforted me. It was then I started recounting the night's events. Her face grew graver as she quietly listened to me. You heard the Nalpaka Maiden. It's a century-old legend. She was a woman who lost her love to the sea and roams the island. It is rumored that she is heard by people before they would drown themselves. Those who hear her are said to be in great danger. Despite what you might think, she must have saved you last night at the beach. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't believe that the spirit of whatever I saw had actually saved me somehow. I followed the old maid that afternoon, who took me for a short hike close to the bungalow atop a small hill. There was a shrine which the locals had dedicated to the Nalpaka Maiden. I offered flowers and lit a candle there, offering her peace.